So Skip Film School is just an online community that I just started this year. It's kind of a really new thing, fresh thing that I'm trying to do. We're basically giving people online an opportunity to come and find community, other people, as well as kind of curated education that hopefully is more practically based.
Welcome to Set Life, where we tell stories from our industry. I'm Kelly Leger, and this is Amber Buto.
Hey, welcome to Set Life. We are guest hosting Dan Rubottom, Hosanna Arceri, and we have a really exciting guest here on Set Life today, who's another production guy that we've recently got to hang out more with. This is Issac Farrar, all the way from Los Angeles. No, not Los Angeles. Where is it?
I'm everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Originally from Northern California, Sacramento area is where was born and raised. And then LA, then Austin, now here. So
all the creative spots.
Yeah, I'm
all
hitting
the cool. Yeah,
next Atlanta. Then we're gonna be in Santa Fe. We're just gonna feel it all out. See where it feels right. You know.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into your story a little bit, but like, what recently brought you here?
Well, recently brought me here was,
and I should say here is Houston
area. Yeah. More practical reason was just community, friends, and family. So. Moving to the area. So we've been in Texas now since 2020. And so just haven't quite figured out where we were going to land as a family. So I got a wife and 3 kids. And so that dictates a lot of the moves and decisions. As much as I would love to say my career rules my life, that's not true. It's definitely my family. And so, that was what kind of brought us here. And then just building relationships from there. So, yeah.
Awesome.
That's cool.
So kind of fun fact, we are all editors.
Yep.
Also, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Actually, you have been an editor for quite a while over at Paramount in your past, right?
I've worked contract for them. This will be the first year that it's probably the lightest year since I started with them. So I've worked contract for them 2018, right after we moved to Los Angeles, and then. Everything went remote, there's fun stories in how they do remote, which is interesting because we actually remote into the computers in Los Angeles from a laptop wherever we're at.
Wow.
Which is kind of unique. But yeah, so I've been working with them for six years now, I guess. Yeah.
That's cool. Now, Dan, I want to ask another question on that. Because I feel like there's a lot of people who watch our podcast show and we're like, all right, Paramount, that's a big name.
Big name, yeah.
Right? And whether you're getting into editing or you've been doing it for a while, that to me, when I hear that, that's like, all right, hey, that's a goal, to hit one day. Definitely. If you're an editor, it's like, I want to edit for Paramount. Right. So tell us, I guess, share with me, because that's foreign to me in the sense I've not hit that mark, but what are some of the things that you're editing at Paramount or working with them on? What does that content normally look like when it comes across your plate?
Yeah. So a lot of that comes down to, getting those kind of jobs, a lot of it comes down to geographical. I think it went away from that and it's starting to go back to that, I think, right now. So at the time we were in Los Angeles and we were able to go into the studio, because a lot of it's contract based. So I'm moving from brand to brand. So it's Paramount Global is the over the hub.
Yeah.
And so I started with Bellator MMA, shooting promotional content for their upcoming fights. I spent a lot of time working for that particular producer. Then Awesomeness TV got bought out by, it was Viacom at the time before they were Paramount Global. And so Awesomeness TV, we did a lot of digital shows. They really made their way in YouTube and actually making shows on YouTube. Awesomeness did. And, Viacom bought them out because they wanted to get into that digital space. So they actually had what was called Viacom Digital Studios when I was there, which was basically like a digital arm of their shows. So we were making, a lot of what I was making was auxiliary content for things that their network shows were already doing. So even the most recent one that I did this last year was for Miss Pat Settles It, which is a BET show. It's kind of a parody of like a Judge Judy type show, right? And but they did an auxiliary content one, which was basically a shortened version of the episode with celebrities to basically promote the actual show on BET. And
so you
that
do
was
the
a lot of
shortened
that.
version.
Yeah, so we did
Yeah.
a shortened version. So it's like
Okay.
12 minutes or whatever,
Okay.
whatever the sweet spot is for YouTube and the algorithm. I think it's just over 10 minutes. So between 12 to 15 minutes with a couple celebrities and with the same format, the bailiff, all of the same people, but just a slightly different kick. And then at the end of every episode, she's like, go watch the BET show.
Okay.
And so I've done that for a lot of, I did that for Nickelodeon. We did a whole show called Hot Mess, a whole season, a thing called Hot Mess, which was basically some of their influencers. They really were trying to get into that space of using social influencers and content creators. That's what's so weird is when you've been in the business long enough that the words have changed. So like starting originally it was like,
which you've been in it for a while.
It was in,
You've got
it's been
like
a little bit.
15 years.
Yeah, it's been
in
a
the
little
industry,
bit.
man. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's like it started out as influencers. Now I think they like to be called content creators. But they use those guys in a lot of the digital content to promote the shows.
Right.
And so, so we, Hot Mess was probably one of my favorites because, basically it was like, it's Nickelodeon, so we're doing slime and
Fun
like
stuff.
they're throwing giant fans throwing food,
Right.
at each
Right.
other, and
Fun stuff.
so that's I like that slow mo like pie in the face kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's great.
The editor's dream or nightmare. But anyway,
It's
so
pretty true.
let's go back a little bit.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your origin story. How did you
Yeah,
get into
origin
this
story.
business? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm from like rural northern. I said Sacramento because that's the nearest bigger town, and even then, it's not even like I think we're just over like 1 million people in the Sacramento area. So it's really it's a very small market town. But I'm actually 45 minutes north, out in the middle of the country, ag country. So growing up, everybody was either in construction or the utilities company. Like those are your two jobs.
Mhm.
And if you weren't doing that, everyone just kind of like, what are
They
you
didn't
doing?
know what it
are you
was.
doing with your life? Like, why are you wasting your life? And so as a young person, I grew up. My dad owned a construction company, but it wasn't my cup of tea. And so I started kind of trying to figure out what that was. And so I actually took like a graphic design course for a while. That didn't really work. And I actually found, which some people, it's still somewhat relevant, but I actually found some guys online called Film Riot.
Mhm.
And I started watching them, and I was like, oh, I could do this. Like, and this was kind of, now the technology is at a very much, you can do it. You can edit on your iPad. You can do, I feel like I'm like at that, that cross moment where it was just starting, Final Cut 7 was king at the time
yeah.
for all the independents. And
This is before your time a little bit,
yeah,
right?
Dude, I don't even know that one.
Yeah.
Final Cut 7. That was like,
yeah.
yeah. Then it all changed right
It
after.
all-
But that's
it all
another
changed.
story.
Yeah, I've got a story about that one too though, but anyway, so yeah, Final Cut 7 got started on that. We were making short films with my buddy, just like watching them online and then trying to recreate what they were doing. And I was like, dude, this is awesome, and I want to do this. And I think when I was a young kid, I was in junior high or so, I got the box set of Pirates of the Caribbean, the DVD set, and it came with, on the special features, it came with this fly on the wall behind the scenes. It wasn't people talking. It was just a camera in a room like this, just watching how it worked.
That's
And I
awesome.
was like,
That's
it was the first time I'd seen that, because I'd watched all the behind the scenes stuff, but like actually seeing how a set runs and how, the different calls and walking it through with an actor. And I was like, this is so cool. And then it came with a CD-ROM. Also, it came
What
with
are those?
a CD-ROM. And
It
you
was
could
the
put
future.
You could put it into the computer, and it had scenes, the scripts, like
Wow.
just not the whole script, but it was scenes. So I printed those out, and like me and
Wow.
my brother were like reenacting the scenes, and like, because again, like we didn't have, this is all pre like the iPhones and all the ability to actually shoot things. It's like my son now is doing stop motion animation at home, and I'm like, we were just pretending,
Yeah.
And so I think I've always just in my heart had the dream of wanting to get into production and pursue that. And I feel like a lot of it was just making it happen, because we were in such a rural area that you just kind of like rural area that we just trying to make it happen. So
That's how Spielberg
Yeah.
started.
It's true.
So
Yeah.
you're in good company, I
Hey,
guess.
me and Spielberg are basically
You know,
the same person.
Have you seen them both in the same room at the same time?
Final Cut 7.
Yeah.
Just
Just sitting there with Final Cut 7. Yeah. So my first professional job was local broadcast news in Sacramento. And personally, like on a side note, I'm still a big advocate. I mean, it's probably different now than it was when, whatever that was, 12 years ago, but I learned so much about just the speed and accuracy of production when you work in broadcast news. And so if you have a chance, you're looking for a first time gig, like to me, I always tell young people, especially, like get into some sort of broadcast environment, because there's just especially if you're trying to be an editor, because I see so many people now, it's like, you know, it's take your sweet time, you know, and it's like, I don't have enough time for this. But that, I mean, we're, because you're literally, footage is coming back 30 minutes before it's supposed to be out, and you've got to turn that over and edit it and post it, and it's got to be right, or you're going to get an earful if it's not, because it's going live television.
Kind of like in the movie Broadcast News. Remember that scene?
Yeah.
Where she's like running the beta tape down the hall, and then they puts it in the machine, and then it hits play right as they take it, and they're all freaking out, yelling at the editor.
Yeah.
You got to see that.
I've seen that part.
Okay, you've seen that. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that's a great environment to learn.
Yeah, so that's where we were doing camera editing, lighting, floor managing, and then I ended up doing live audio for a little bit for them. And that's a different kind of life, like the broadcast news life. You know, you're first thing in the morning or late at night, but it's a great place to start and get your feet wet in production and
definitely
in a high octane environment. Especially because I think that the pressure, you know, like it's just good to kind of get used to that level of pressure. And so, so that was my first professional job. And, you know, after that, it was just kind of like, okay, well, what do I want to do and how do I get there? And
So how did you transition from that into kind of what you're doing the next part of your career?
Yeah. So I ended up working for a church and starting a media department for a church. Did that for almost 3+ years after my time in broadcast. And that was like my favorite time, probably, just because we kind of had this, it wasn't a blank check, but it was a blank check in the sense of like, you have the time and the resource to kind of do whatever you want to do. Like we didn't have any equipment. You know, I was joking earlier, like we built our own slider. You know, we built our own, you know, bounce and everything, PVC pipes and sheets.
Classic.
And so we did all of that, but it was kind of film school for me. I tried film school. I went for a little bit. It was a bachelor's degree program. I was in a graphic design class because that was required for the course to get the bachelor's degree. I'm in there with our teacher. Most of us are film students. The graphic design teacher goes, it gets frustrated. It's a tracing class. We're tracing typography, not anything film related. It's not even like we're building a movie poster,
right?
In Photoshop or something, you know. And he gets really frustrated.
What was the font you were tracing?
Yeah, it was papyrus. No, it was. I wish that would have been awesome.
Avatar. Right?
Yeah. But yeah, I got so frustrated with us and was like, you guys are wanting to do this for a living, and you guys aren't taking this serious. I kind of raised my hand. I'm like, the majority of us are film students. Like, we're not doing this for a living. And right after that, that same day, I went into my financial aid office, and they showed me my first, like, this is how much you owe. And I said, yeah, I'm done. I'm not doing this film school thing anymore. So the three and a half years of being at that church, we built a studio. We had like a theater production that we did. So like we did 2 to 3 plays a year, full productions. We built sets and costumes. We had video elements involved. So we were filming things. And so we literally, like, I had, you know, over 3 years of just nonstop, every aspect of production that you can, you know, so we're watching the videos online and we're reenacting it and doing it. And so I did that for 3 years, and I was like, this is what I love to do. And then in our environment at the time, they were like, we're going to go in a different direction. But I was like, in my heart, I was like, I'm still doing this. Like, I'm still going this way. And so that was when my wife and I decided to move with our 2 kids at the time. We now have 3, but 2 at the time, to Los Angeles. And that was our next kind of leg of the journey. It's like, okay, I'm going to go to LA and take a shot there. The interesting thing about Los Angeles is that it's not a jack of all trades town, which is kind of interesting. So for me in Sacramento, it's very much, I think, similar to what I've experienced here. You said we're editors, but we're, you know, you shoot,
right.
you all these other things that you do. Well, in LA, it was like, I did that up in Northern California. I go to Southern California, and I'm like, they're like, oh, so what do you do? And I'm like, well, what do you need?
Yeah.
Like, I can grip for you. Like, I can, you know, what do you need? And they're like, oh, well, let me know when you know what, you want to do. And
Specialize.
like, and then I'll help you find something. And that was a new thing for me. So editing was not actually what I set out to do. I'm now kind of coming back to that place now. But I was kind of like, I got a job as an editor, and then in LA, I became the editor. So then it's like the moment you're like, oh, I'm editing for Paramount, it's like, oh, so you're an editor. Oh, I've got some other editing gigs for you. And so now you're an editor. Yeah. It's like, yeah, but I could also be a grip. Like, do you need a grip? Like, I also could do some other things.
I'm good with that.
So, and then, so anyways, so that was kind of the next leg. And that's how I kind of got into Paramount in my story is that. And
I think it's really cool hearing your story. Especially with the film school part, because I'm one of those guys that didn't go to film school.
Right.
I know there's a lot of people who have gone, and I think it's this like gray area that people in our industry are always like have an opinion on.
Right.
Which is, it's fair to have an opinion, but man, I think it's really cool to also see those success stories that are the ones that didn't go to film school.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, there's you can always see on this hand, okay, that was definitely needed. I needed to go. And then there's the ones that's like, man, I didn't need to go. Like, it was it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
So I just love hearing that, because I'm definitely one of those guys as well. And even seeing your hat that you're wearing on set today, which is Skip Film School.
Yeah. I feel like there's a theme
into
there.
that. Yeah.
So I started Skip Film School this year. So to your point, when I was at Fox 40 News in Sacramento, on a whole team, everybody was talking one day about the colleges and the film schools they went to. And they looked at me and asked me where I went. I'm a dropout. They weren't very happy about that. We all have the same pay, which was not very good, and we're all sitting there in the same room. Same thing in LA. I was on set. I'm a grip with a bunch of other grips. They went to film school. I didn't go to film school. We all have the same job. We all have relatively the same information, knowledge. The one thing that they had that I didn't have was the relationships. And that's, I feel like, one of the biggest things that you can get. I don't know if it's worth the hundreds of thousands of dollars of student debt for the relationships, but that's, I think, one of the big things that you get. And so Skip Film School is just an online community that I just started this year. It's kind of a really new thing, fresh thing that I'm trying to do. We're basically giving people online an opportunity to come and find community, other people, as well as kind of curated education that hopefully is more practically based. One of the things that I've learned over the years is that there's a lot of just real life lessons that film school doesn't teach. They'll teach you how to roll an XLR cable. They'll teach you some of that stuff that'll make you feel good on set. And then there's a bunch of just career things that you run. I mean, rejection, like handling rejection, being one of them. And I think for me, I have felt a lot of years alone in my journey. And I think it's something that, I've been on the brink of quitting this pursuit for a long, many a times in my journey. You go through COVID, nothing's being filmed. There's no post-production. You've got no work. Yeah. Like, what am I doing? While my brother, he picked the construction route, he's working. I'm like, maybe I should have went into construction.
Right.
And so I think that's the other heart behind it too, is to be able to give even practical like education around, how to manage some of those types of elements. And I so that Skip Film School, it's clickbait, for sure. It's
a great name though.
It's a good name.
It's a really good name. I think it. Yeah, I love the
awesome.
idea of it, and I hope it just like takes off like crazy for you.
Yeah.
Because I think it's always good to have resources especially the generation that we're in now. Like, it's just there are a lot of good resources with YouTube and stuff. Yeah. But if you can kind of channel it into something a little bit more specific, into an area that they can learn from, and a tighter community instead of just a bunch of public people you don't know.
Right.
That's always helpful, I think, to learn.
Yeah.
And that's really how I think you learn a lot in this industry. Like, simple things like, how do you, set up a C-stand, to how do you produce a feature film. It's really just those mentoring moments from other people that have already done, maybe not all of it, they've done maybe some of it, just so we can just learn, so you just kind of take wherever you can get it. But it's always helpful to have somebody that's like you can talk to and not just learn from comments on a post.
Oh yeah. I did a producing program one time. It was great. But it was like 2-3 times a week we had a class with a different teacher on a different subject for like 6 weeks. Overwhelmed, like massively. So I got a bunch of knowledge somewhere in there, like I can run across it. but yeah, having a mentor, like I've been able to get a mentor recently in the last few years, been working with the producer, and I've learned more from just that and being able to ask questions and even just his own journey. Like I think that's the other thing too, is we can learn so much from other people's journeys.
Yeah.
Right.
That it's hard to productize some of that. It's hard to package that to where it's like, oh, here's a class on how to, when you come across this, that this is how you handle that, But if you walk it out with someone, it's like maybe I'm not going through it, he's going through it, but I'm kind of walking through that journey, and then you're getting to learn so much more from that experience.
Yeah.
I want to ask, I think, like Dan, you're that to me, what we're talking about, the mentoring and teaching. And I can attest that it's been such a growing season going through that. But I think for a lot of viewers and listeners, the first question they'll have is, well, how do I find that? How do I find that mentor?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How would you answer that question of like, okay, I need that. That seems to be the community, the culture that I need to get into. How do I find somebody that can mentor me in that film production world?
Yeah. So I originally started out just chasing people down and bugging the heck out of them, and it didn't work very well. And again, this is my way of how I found mine. I emailed him because I was doing the stuff at Paramount. I was helping with social media marketing stuff, videos. I just emailed him, asked him if I could do his social media for free. His social sucked. Still kind of sucks. We've done
that
okay.
one out.
But I was like, I could help you like create content. Like I can help you make videos. Like that's something that I could do. And that was in 2020. And that was actually I had known him for a while, but I had been like, I had tried to pay for his coffee. I tried to pay for his lunch. I tried to pay him like just to have some sort of meeting,
Yeah.
But I started adding value to what he was doing. It was a need that he had, and so I added value to that, and then we started, a relationship, and over the years, it's just something that grew into that, and which I personally think are some of the best types of mentors, because the moment it becomes work for a mentor. Even it could lack the authenticity,
Right?
Where this is now at a place where it's like, he's rooting for me as much as I have put value into what he's doing.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, and that's something that it's kind of a natural progression too, for someone younger to offer something in social media to someone that's more established in their career, but it's maybe they haven't taken that seriously or don't really know what to do with it.
Right.
So it's a great kind of door to open.
I've built websites. I've built his websites. I update his website pretty regularly. I do a lot.
You can build them an app. I'm sure you would.
Yeah, I do a lot of non-film things, but I've also we've done development and script notes, and I've watched projects that we've had from treatment all the way to the final drafts. And
yeah, you've told me about some of the stories with him, and I'm like, wow, you have had a lot of good access with some information from him. That's been, I'm sure, super helpful. What's kind of next in your world? What do you think is next?
Yeah, so right now there's quite a few, like a lot of people were probably lighting a lot of, I call it lighting fuses. Some people would say like spinning or irons in the fire. Right. I realize when you put an iron in a fire, it will get hot.
Yeah.
A fuse doesn't always blow up. Like if you light a fuse, it's like it could not make it. Yeah. So I've been saying
that's such a great way of saying that.
I've been saying I've been lighting fuses. Yeah. There's could be a lot of explosions this next year. We'll see how this
start
dropping that one on people. I'm just lighting fuses.
Yeah, just lighting fuses.
That's great.
No, I think one of the cool things that we're doing right now is I'm working with For the One Studios on a show that'll be on the app. And it's with the guy Steve Hemphill. We're calling it Taking Ground right now. So we've got a script. We've got meeting with actors. We're filming in about a month, and starting the first episode and kind of seeing where it goes from there. So that's a really cool thing that's
awesome.
That's coming up. I love writing. I love getting to tell stories and break story and do all of that. It started out as a documentary, and then we felt like it just was told better narratively. I think specifically because of the subject matter. My big passion is the fact that you can feel something emotionally. Like I can tell you something, like I can tell you a struggle in my life, and you're gonna hear the fact and be like, oh, okay, or I can take you on that experience and be able to show you what that's like, you know?
Yeah.
And so I always describe it as like, you know, you got the guy walking down the street with this beautiful sunny day, you know, and you go like, oh, he struggles with suicide. And you go like, oh, that's a bummer, you know, but it's this beautiful sunny day. But if you see it from his perspective, it might feel more like you've got tunnel vision, like the lights are right.
Yeah.
So the cool thing about narrative feature film making is that you get to explore some of those more visual elements of the story rather than just giving the facts. And so a lot of these stories are about people who have overcome struggles and things in their lives. And so we're getting to tell them, you know, very creatively to hopefully take the audience on a journey that will, you know, really get them excited, make them feel something, whether you struggle with it or not. And then ultimately the power of overcoming it. So
that's awesome. Man,
that's
so
really,
cool.
that's really exciting. I know it's going to be really good. A lot of great and exciting things are coming out of this studio, so
it's true.
It's pretty exciting to see. A lot of big things in the works, and that's one of them. So really cool to hear.
Yep.
You got anything else to add?
I was just gonna ask, man. You know, before we close out for our viewers, man, how do we connect with you? How do we follow you? Man, if there's people wanting to work with you, where's the best way to get in touch with Issac?
Yeah, so the best way for me is I pretty much live on Instagram. So at Issac Farrar, it's 2 S's. And my mom misspelt it, and I gotta live with it. But yeah, so Issac Farrar at Issac Farrar is probably the easiest and the best way to find me. Stuff that I'm doing, and then Skip Film School's on there as well at Skip Film School, and that's another great way to connect. So
awesome.
All right, until next time, this is Set Life.